We all knew there were Disney Cruise Line ships coming, but now we know there's a whole new kind of ship. Hello and welcome to DIS Unlimited's DCL Show. I think all of us were really surprised back in August at D23 when Disney announced there were a bunch of new ships coming, 4 new ships. Well, now we know more. We're going to go through what we know, and then we're going to do some fun speculation about what we think might be coming in those ships or what we hope might be coming. Hi there, I'm Chris Vorbeck. I'm one of the agents at Dreams Unlimited Travel. Joining me for this fun discussion, Dreams Unlimited Travel agent Elaine Edwards. Hello, Elaine.
Hi, friends.
Dreams Unlimited Travel agent Federico Argar. He is also part of our Spanish content team, See Disney. Hello, Federico.
Hola, hola. Thank you for having me.
And correspondent for the DIS and DIS Unlimited, Chloe Ferreira. Hello, Chloe.
Hi. Ahoy.
And of course, we have our rock star producer, Jimmy Valdez. He is, we're just the pretty faces. Well, I'm not a pretty face. I have a face for radio, but I have pretty faces with us. Jimmy makes all the magic happen. And so thank you so much for doing this, Jimmy. Really appreciate it.
Hello. Oh, rock star. Okay.
Yeah, rock star. Thank you all for being here. Before we get into the details, yes, we like to remind you that this show, along with everything we do at the DIS and DIS Unlimited, is brought to you by Dreams Unlimited Travel, experts at helping you plan your perfect Disney vacation, Universal trip, Disney cruise, even other cruise lines. Yes, we do other cruise lines. No additional cost to book with Dreams Unlimited Travel, none. And we're going to give you insights about your Disney cruise ship, about your Disney trip, about Universal. And by booking your cruise with Dreams Unlimited Travel, you get a shipboard credit of up to $1,000, depending on the price of your cruise. I know people always say you don't get anything for free. This is one of these cases where you're getting free money to spend on board, and it doesn't cost you a dime. And I always tell folks, I was a Dreams client before I became an agent, so I've seen the world from both sides, and I always booked with Dreams. So you can get a no-obligation quote by going to dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. With that behind us, let's get into the fun stuff. The calendar just turned to 2025, but Disney Cruise Line has given us a glimpse out to 2031. Yes, 2031. Flying cars, maybe. No, new ships is what we're going to see. I think it's safe to say that most of us were really, really shocked when Disney announced at D23 that there are going to be 4 new cruise ships joining the Disney Cruise Line fleet. 4 of those were above and beyond what they had already announced. Well, just this week, Disney gave us their first peek at some of those new ships. There will be 13 ships in the Disney Cruise Line fleet by 2031. And we've just learned that, there's going to be a whole new type of ship. And before we get into what those new ships are, I wanted to quickly go through because people get confused about this. Disney Cruise Line currently has 4 types of ships. It all started with the Disney Magic in 1989. This is the Magic class ships. It consists of the Disney Magic, 1989, Disney Wonder in 1999, 2,700 passengers, 11 decks. The cruise line industry uses gross tonnage to kind of define how big these ships are. So 84,000 gross tonnage. It'll help give you a sense as we get into the bigger ships what we're talking about. In 2011, we got the Disney Dream and the Dream class ships. And the Dream class ships consist of the Disney Dream 2011 and the Disney Fantasy the next year in 2012. 4,000 passengers, 14 decks, 130,000 gross tonnage. 10 years later, we got the Disney Wish and the Wish class ships. The Disney Wish in 2022, the Disney Treasure, which just had its inaugural itineraries, just started in 2024. The Disney Destiny coming in November 2025. And then we're going to see 2 new ships. One we knew was one going out to Tokyo and will be based out there. And then another Wish class ship, which we don't have names. We don't have anything that was part of this announcement. The Wish class ships are about 4,000 passengers, 15 decks, 144,000 gross tonnage. So a little bit bigger than the Dream class, but about the same number of passengers.
Chris, can I ask you a really quick question before you move forward to the next one? So they've been calling this in the announcement the Wish class ships. But I'm confused because when this all started and the Wish came out, wasn't these called like the Triton class?
Yeah, so they always have a working title for the new ship. So they were called the Triton class, and some people are still hanging on to that. As soon as they named, that was before they had the first name of the first ship. Now they kind of stick to that naming. So they're the Wish class, Dream class, Magic class ships. But yeah, there are still people calling it the Triton class ships. Technically, it's the Wish class ships, but we all know, us Disney folk all know what you're talking about. But yeah, that seems to be what they're doing. So. And you can go back and see we all got to do the Disney Treasure, and it was really cool ships. Go check that out. I just want to touch base on the Disney Adventure. I'm almost done. Disney Adventure. This one's a kind of a different ship. Was purchased by Disney during COVID when the company that was making them went under, and so they bought it for pennies on the dollar. It's very different. It's a big class, a big ship, 6,000 passengers. It was going to be 9,000 guests, but they, the way Disney reoriented it, it's only 6,000. It has 19 decks. It is 208,000 gross tons. So it's almost double the Wish class ships. So it's a big ship. And just a reminder, you can get all the profiles of each of the ships. You can find it on DCLfan.com. It's really cool. You can find state plans. You can even find room reviews, stateroom reviews, look at a specific stateroom. It's really cool. So a lot of information there. But here's what's new. With a new year, we learned Disney is going to be creating a whole new class of ships. Disney announced that 3 of those ships are going to be smaller, which kind of, I think, surprised. We're going to talk about it in just a second. They're going to be bigger than the Magic class ships, about 20% bigger, but smaller than the Dream and Wish class ships. 3,000 passengers, 100,000 gross tons. That's half the size, by the way, of the Disney Adventure. So considerably smaller. They're going to be very environmentally friendly, and there's a whole bunch we don't know, but that's basically what we know so far. So I want to bring everybody else in. First off, Elaine, I'm going to start with you. What do you think? Smaller ships? Did that surprise you at all? What do you think about the announcements? What we learned?
So it definitely surprised me. When I read that, I was like, "Oh, that's not what I thought I was going to read." It did surprise me. However, I'm not mad about it because I have been in talking to my clients and that kind of thing, both with Disney Cruise Line and other cruise lines. They're kind of starting to prefer smaller ships rather than these huge mega ships. These huge mega ships, they have so many different amenities and restaurants and activities and things going on. And what that means is that it also brings more people. And I'm starting to get people that are kind of preferring the smaller ships. And so I think it was a very interesting move that they did it. And I'm thinking about, they're going to do smaller ships. Why did they make that decision? And this is purely my speculation, is that they are going to make this kind of a more like exclusive or luxury kind of a thing. Maybe they're going to go in that direction, and that these aren't going to be going to the Bahamas and the Caribbean. Maybe they are going to be going to more exotic or less traveled to places.
I'm going to have you hold speculation, and we're going to come back to that because there's a lot we want to speculate on, and certainly locations are one of them. But Federico, give me your thoughts. Certainly, and I agree with Elaine, I hear a lot of people say, hey, I like that smaller ship, and particularly when you're at the places when you're at Castaway Cay, you notice when you're on the Magic, as opposed to the Fantasy or the Wish, it feels different. And when you get to some of the islands in the Caribbean, there's a very different feel. Why smaller? What's your sense?
Wait, before that, I want to ask you something. So the Ford Wish class ship is the one going to Japan, or
there's going to be 5 Wish class ships. One will be going to Japan, and one we don't know about. One was so we didn't. Was part of this announcement. I think it gets kind of overlooked because we learned about this new class of ships. But so we have 2 more Wish class ships coming above and beyond what we know right now. One is the Tokyo one, and then there's one more. So, so we have a couple more Wish class ships coming up. Those will be coming 2027 and 2028. So,
Yeah, I agree with Elaine. In my personal opinion, I don't mind the size, and I have a lot of people who prefer the classic Dream or even the Magic ships that are way smaller. I think for me, it's more about theming and the decor of the ship more than the size. So I don't have a problem with that. And I do think that having smaller ships is going to be better to be able to go to different ports that can have these mega ships sailing into them. So we're maybe going to see different places where we're going to be able to go on a Disney cruise than we're not going to go on the Disney Wish, for example. So sizes, I was surprised as well, but it's not a problem for me, and I think it's a good news as well.
Chloe, your thoughts, your feelings. I know you've been on all the ships so far, and your favorites are bigger ones. Your favorites are, I think it's between the Fantasy and the Treasure. Last time we chatted.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about these smaller ships?
So my top three is the Fantasy, Treasure, and then the Magic, actually. So I like a little bit of each one. Something that I'm looking forward to, along with what Federico said, everything that he said, I'm also hoping for a different layout. Because something that we've seen with both the Wish and the Treasure, they kind of strayed away from the classic layout from the Magic Wonder and even the Dream and the Fantasy, specifically the adult spaces. So I don't mind a smaller ship, especially if it's that, in between the Magic Wonder and then the Dream and the Fantasy. I feel like they might go back to that classic ocean liner feeling a bit more. I want to see, more Disney theming infused, because that's what we're on a Disney cruise for. But then again, I'd like to see them go back to the classic layout that they had when it came to, the previous four ships.
I can tell we're all antsy to get into the speculation part of this. So let's do that. And we all realize that this video is going to come back and haunt us as we're proven wrong later on. But we're going to do it anyway.
Or we're all going to be geniuses, and Disney's going to say, "You guys have really great ideas. We're going to pay you $1 million because you've just designed all of our plans for us."
Exactly. And of course, if you want to help us do this, put comments, share your comments for what you'd like to see in here. But Chloe, I want to start with you, because I think you took it in one of the directions that I wanted to go, which is when the Disney Wish came out. It's funny, it's been less with the Disney Treasure so far because of the level of theming in that. I was telling somebody that the Disney Treasure, the theming is so amazing, you don't really notice the parts that you don't like. But there's things like the adult space on the Disney on the Wish class ships, which have not gone over well, being stashed in the back, and that space being loud, both because of the Aqua Mouse going overhead and because guess what, the funnel vision sound from the funnel vision goes back, so you get all that sound back there. If you're looking for a quiet space, it's harder to find a quiet space on this class of ships. The other big beef that I hear people talk about are they want a running path. And right now you can't really do that on the Wish class ships. So there were a lot of things that people don't like. What do you certainly, you said one of them, the adult areas of the ship. What else would you hope that they do in terms of design on this new class of ship?
Something that I kind of miss, it seems like a silly complaint, but I was recently comparing my thoughts on the Aqua Mouse versus the Aqua Duck. I actually really prefer the Aqua Duck because it's cool being up that high above the water and above the ship's top deck, and you don't really get that many views on the Aqua Mouse. You're kind of stuck in the slow conveyor belt system with the screens along the side. And I know they build it as, Disney's first attraction at sea, but it's not the same as, I don't know, there's just something about that thrilling aspect of just being in a glass slide going around the top deck of the ship that was a lot more thrilling than what the Aqua Mouse is. So I kind of hope that they kind of go back to that design idea. I hope they take more, I feel like the Wish was kind of cursed from the start with their timeline and COVID and what have you, but I would like to see treasure level details on any ship moving forward, which I think we'll definitely see. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't thought too much about like what else I'd like to see, because I don't want to set myself up for disappointment or anything like that. I like to see what they're actually going to plan. But mostly I would have to say are the adult spaces, like you already covered. The pool was definitely scaled back from what it was originally supposed to be on the Wish and the Treasure. And then I'd like to see maybe not exactly what we had before with the adult district completely being separated off, but maybe incorporated a little differently than the Wish and the Treasure, where it's kind of sprinkled throughout the common areas of the ship. Yeah, I'd like to see it kind of
Elaine,
go back.
that's one of the big differences with the Wish class ships is they don't in the fantasy and the dream and even the magic class, you have kind of an adult area, both in terms of pools, but also in terms of nighttime stuff, and you can kind of they shove the adults off to ourselves, which I hear is something that people miss. They're scattered on the Wish class ships. What's your thought? What's your feeling on those?
I think that a lot of people have been vocal enough about the fact that they do not like on the Wish class that there is no adult district or anything like that they are not going to make that mistake going forward. I truly do. I mean, you hear it constantly. And are Disney ships built for adults, or are they built for families? Well, it really needs to be both, because I think you probably is the same as me. Half of the clients that I have going on Disney Cruise Line are all adults. They're not families. And so they really do have to have those adult areas to keep them happy, or they're going to start looking at other cruise lines. So I think that they will be smart enough to go back to the adult district area. Before I move away from theming, I do want to add a little bit onto what Chloe was saying. And, you know, I want to talk about how they have the different themes for the staterooms, and how I hope that goes forward, moving forward. You know, with the Magic and the Wonder, the theme is nautical. The entire ship, everywhere, every stateroom, nautical. And then with the Dream and the Fantasy, it's nautical, but then the fantasy goes to Art Nouveau and the Dream goes to Art Deco. But that's just the little bit of difference. But then once we started the Wish class, it went completely differently as far as theming goes, because they have all of these themed areas. And then what I was specifically saying, the staterooms. Every stateroom, each level has different themings, and then even within the levels there are different themes as far as different movies and that kind of thing. I hope that they carry that forward into these new class of ships, because I have so many people that, you know, maybe they went on the Wish and they were kind of disappointed because of the layout or whatever, and so they weren't interested in going on the Treasure. But now the Fantasy came out and they are all in with that. I'm sorry, not the Fantasy, the Destiny. Destiny came out and they are all in on that theming. And so they're booking it, and they're wanting specific themed staterooms, and they're asking for that. So I hope that they do carry that forward.
Yeah. Federico, a whole lot has been said. Go, talk.
I want to go back to something that Elaine said before that I didn't think of, and I thought it was super interesting, and is what these ships are going to be trying to, what will be the experience that they will offer. And you remember when Disney Cruise Line first started as an idea, they tried to, they began with another cruise line and making this Disney theme cruises.
The big red boat,
and
right?
Then they open Disney Cruise Line. And right now they're doing something similar with Expedition, National Geographic Expedition and Adventures by Disney, where they have another cruise line doing these very specific types of trips with National Geographic or adults only on the river cruises. Now, I don't think these new ships are going to be small enough to be able to do a river cruise with them, but maybe they are going to do what Elaine said and try to create an experience that is specifically for what we can get on National Geographic, but on a Disney ship, or maybe the experience you have for adults only river cruises, but on a Disney cruise. Maybe not on a river, but in another space. So I think that's very interesting because it's something that Disney always do. Is the way they try things, and if it works, they create something specifically for that. And yeah, I forgot what I was going to say. So I thought that was very.
Chloe, one of the things that I know both of us were blown away by on the Disney Treasure was the Moana show, right? The Disney Tales of Moana. And it really showed what Disney can do in those theaters. And so certainly one of the things that I'm looking forward to is more a breadth of even more of that caliber of show. I cannot wait to see what they come up with. Hercules is coming up, but now we'll have a whole bunch of new shows coming down the pike. Wow, I am so excited.
Oh yeah, me too. I'm really hoping for I don't know. I hope I get to sail on the Disney Adventure one day, but I'm hoping that compilation show that's kind of carried by Wally and Eve comes to one of the other ships. So maybe this one. I would also like to see them kind of go back to classic stories too. I feel like Cinderella could really be a beautiful show to the level of Aladdin and even Frozen, especially with all those little critters and everything. They could do some fun things with puppets maybe. But Cinderella or even Peter Pan, I feel like those classic stories are so beloved by a lot of people. But no, the level of Moana, again, Moana was probably the best Disney Cruise Line production I've ever seen. It was beautiful.
Yeah. Well, so I think one of the best productions, period, cruise or otherwise. It was so fantastic. Yeah. And they have other things like the Avengers show that they did, the Captain America show that they did out in California. I wouldn't be surprised if they bring something like that on board one of their ships, because it was also very, very well done. Elaine, talk a little bit about you brought up theming, which is so, and Disney certainly has leaned into theming and is clearly making that both not only in terms of staterooms but also dining experiences with Coco, with Frozen. And they have a wealth of opportunity to do that in other dining locations, it seems.
Oh yeah, and I think that they're going to keep expanding on that. I don't think that we're going to be back in Magic and Wonder dining level. I think that they are going to keep going with what they've now done on the Wish class, that they will always have one that's going to have some sort of elaborate dinner show. And then they're going to have something, we've got something with screens. Maybe that's going to continue. And then you kind of have your boring dinner. I don't know. Yeah. But you know what I'm saying? It kind of falls into those three categories. Right. And so I think that they are going to take that and they are going to keep going with that. And hopefully so that they keep coming up with new restaurant ideas, because I really, really, really like it. I really, really do, especially the dinner shows that they are doing. Oh my gosh, I love it.
Yeah, and they've gotten better in how they do. Even the layout of the space is much better on the Treasure than it was on the Wish. So I'm hopeful that they'll do even more of that. Federico, one of the things that I thought about as we were walking around the Disney Treasure was how much they've infused a theming in just every time you look someplace, there's an element of theming there, and it's amazing. And I was going back and looking at some of the announcements about the Disney Adventure, where they're essentially creating lands on board this ship. Disney's really leaning into theming in every aspect, from dining to staterooms to this is. I think in the new ships we're going to see a lot more theming, right?
Yeah, and I was that was the other thing that I was going to say. When Disney Cruise Line first started, they thought of making the ships a theme park on sea, on sea, yep. And they part that to create this classic transatlantic aesthetic experience. And right now with the Treasure and the success they had with this theme park areas, theme park theme areas, like the Haunted Mansion, Skipper Canteen, etc. So I think this is going to be something that they will explore even more in the other ships. Maybe we will have other attractions, other hotels, other themes that we can find on Disneyland or Walt Disney World, and they will do something like that because it was so well done on the Disney Treasure that I think they should do it on other ships. Maybe on the Destiny, maybe on the other ones of the Wish class, but hopefully in this one, this new class of smaller ships as well. And I think they have a lot of options in terms of theming. I was thinking, and I talk about it on the Spanish podcast that we do, that I had an idea, and I want to know your opinion. So the ship is going to Disney Imagineering. If you're hearing this, you can contact me and we'll talk about it.
The check is payable too.
The ship will be the Disney Classic, and the main statue that they have on the Grand Hall will be, of course, Steamboat Willie, Mickey Mouse, and then it will have themes that we have seen in other ships like 1923 that are tribute to the classic Disney era from the beginning of the company. Things that Chloe was saying about bringing the stories and the characters and the shows of the classic movies. I think that will be something that can be matched very well with the classic style of the old ships, like the Magic and the Wonder. I don't know what you think of that.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. Federico, you are hired. I love it. And think about this, like Snow White, the first full cartoon movie. You don't see Snow White anywhere on any of these ships. Like,
no,
Fantasia.
I know.
Think about a Fantasia show where they can,
right.
Oh my
goodness! It would be beautiful to have a Fantasia.
It really seems to me like with the Disney Destiny that has this hero villain theme, that I wouldn't be surprised if they do that where the ship itself has kind of with the Treasure it's adventure, which gets confusing because they have an adventure ship, but that's fine. Where the ship all the way through has a theme, and they make it really try and tie it to that in some ways, which is super fun. Chloe?
Well, one last thing too, I would love to see, going along with that classic theme, thinking about the classic theme park attractions that they could incorporate into lounge spaces. Going off of Snow White, how about a Snow White Scary Adventures themed lounge? That would be so cool to step into, I don't know, like a dark ride scene, or even Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. I feel like those are two really popular Fantasyland attractions that have a pretty good fan base that would appreciate something that they could step into on board.
Just put me in a Small World themed stateroom and I'm in.
I was just going to say that. Please, not It's a Small World. That song will be in my head forever.
No, put me in the Small World stateroom. I'm there. I would never leave if there was a Small World stateroom. I'm literally sitting on my Small World blanket right now.
I think having Mary Blair, like the colors of Mary Blair in a space where you can feel that, not the, right now we have that on the nursery area, but having that something that we can enjoy as well.
Yeah.
Anything else on theming? Because I want to talk about where these ships might go. But
I do
anything else?
I have something, and maybe it's not theming, but this is where it fits. Do we ever think that Disney will make a adults only ship that is different from the Nat Geo and the River Cruises and that kind of thing? An actual Disney ship, adults only.
My opinion, survey says.
I think they could do something like Marvel Day at Sea, like a very specific itinerary on one of the
Star Wars Day at Sea, please.
Oh yeah, bring back Star Wars Day at Sea. Yeah, it will be interesting to see which parts of. I mean, they have such a wealth of them, right? With Pixar, with Star Wars, with Marvel, with of course the Disney. There's just so much that they can do, and I cannot wait to see what happens when they. I mean, the treasure just warmed my heart in terms of seeing what Imagineers can do when they're set free, and it is awesome. So. I wanted to talk a little bit about locations. Where might these ships go? My take is one of these smaller ships is going to be based somewhere in Southern California because Disney has had so much success with Disney World, land, sea packages. Why not a Disneyland land sea package? So literally you can do a Disney week, spend a couple days at Disneyland, then do a 3-4 day cruise, either in San Diego or whatever, or in San Pedro or wherever they end up going out of. But I would put big money down that will happen. Where else do people think? I think one of them will probably go to Alaska, but I want to touch on the Magic and Wonder and how long they're around in just a minute. But where else would you like to see these smaller ships go?
So I will say, and I don't know that I want them to go anywhere. I will go anywhere. But right. I think that maybe this could be an answer for, we are starting to see that a lot of foreign ports are basically limiting or saying no altogether to cruise ships because the ports themselves are getting so overrun. Greece, there's some ports in Greece that are doing this. Alaska is starting to do this, where they are saying no altogether, or they're limiting the number of ships that can come. Maybe this is an answer to that kind of thing, that they can say, look, we have a smaller ship. We're not going to overwhelm you. Maybe this is kind of one of those like backdooring into these ports kind of a thing. I don't know. But that's totally. What I was thinking.
Key West. Disney used to go to Key West and doesn't anymore because Key West said, thank you, we don't want you anymore. Some cruise lines are still going there, but Disney is not. And maybe with those smaller ships, the communities may feel like they're not being just overrun by 7,000 people. It's a big difference. Right. Federico, where would you like to go?
So I'm Colombian. I know, surprise. And the thing is, to get it on a Disney cruise, you need to have an American visa, Canadian visa, or in a lot of countries in Latin America, we don't need visas for Europe. So if you don't have a US visa or a Canadian visa, the only option for you is go to Europe, which is far. And so I would love to have an option of cruises departing from anywhere in Latin America or the Caribbean. Maybe like go back to the south of the Caribbean, like Aruba or these beautiful islands that usually you don't go on a Caribbean cruise from Port Canaveral or Fort Lauderdale. So that one thing. Also the Panama Canal, which was how do you call that? The cruises that takes you to one port to the other. Relocation.
Yep.
But those were very popular.
Very popular.
Yeah. So for me, South America or the south of the Caribbean will be awesome. And yeah.
Yeah, the Panama Canal cruise, this last tranche of itineraries sold out, I think, in 3 days. I mean, I think it didn't make it to full when everyone can book. It was very popular. So I've done that, not on Disney. It's a great cruise. It is longer, but it's a great cruise. Chloe, where would you like to go? Oh, sorry, I was just going to say, I wouldn't be surprised if a ship spends more time in Europe as well, because there's so many places in Europe that they can go, and that would be great. Chloe, where do you want to go?
I would like to see them tap into more Hawaiian itineraries. I feel like those are a rare voyage that it seemed really popular for guests. And I would like to see them do more European itineraries too. I feel like anytime I've looked into it, it's been like the Magic or the Wonder doing I think it's mostly the Magic that does the European itineraries, and I'd like to experience a newer ship doing that too, because I go for both the destination and the ship. And not that I don't love the Magic and the Wonder, but I feel like experiencing all of that with a newer ship would be worth the price point for me.
The Magic had traditionally done Europe. It's been the Dream the last 2 years. It will be the Fantasy this summer.
Yeah.
So the newer ships are working their way over there, and they also did a little retrofit while they were over there. So they're so it'll be interesting to see what happens. I know Norway has been really pushing, and not surprisingly, these ships are very environmental friendly. Norway has really been pushing to not have a lot of pollution in their space, and so I think it's not surprising that these new ships are going to be so environmentally friendly, because that's one of the big concerns out there as well. One of the things that this means is could it mean something about the Disney Magic and Disney Wonder? And because these ships are now more than 25 years old, the Disney Magic is approaching its 30th year in a couple years. And that's longer than many cruise lines keep ships online. Do we think that these new ships coming on board means that the Magic and Wonder might be going away sometime soon? Federico, what do you think?
I don't think so, because I don't know if it was the Magic or the Wonder who was just refurnished.
Got a little facelift.
Yeah, and so I don't think Disney is going to spend money on doing that if they already have projects on bringing new ships for the next 5 years. So I hope not. Because, if we compare Disney Cruise Line with like Royal Caribbean, for example, even with 13 ships, it's small. So it's better if we keep all of them.
Elaine, Chloe?
I do have opinions. So I don't know. I'm glad that you kind of said something, because I don't know what the ship lifespan is normally with other cruises. I don't know what that number is. And while we would all love to keep every ship forever, because I think that's what Disney people have ingrained in their mind, is that every theme park attraction will be there forever. It's not. They're going to change things. And I do think that the Magic and the Wonder do have problems. Chris and Federico, we were both sitting at Palo on the Magic, and our table was going like this through the entire dinner. And I also had that on the Wonder when I went on the Wonder. And it's so all of those staterooms on the back half are bouncing the entire time with this reverberation. And the way that the layout is, that they have the galley right on top of some of the staterooms, there are issues. And I think that we will see the day probably sooner than we would think that they are going to retire these ships. And probably what they're going to do is Disney is a smart business operation. They will probably sell them to somebody else. So
the challenge, and that's what usually happens, is they do sell off the ships to other folks. And 30 years is long for a ship to be owned by Royal, or they don't have very many ships that are that old. The trouble with the Disney ships is it's hard to sell those ships to somebody else, because they look like Disney. It takes a lot of retrofitting to remove ears off the side of and I don't think Disney is going to want its IP being sold to somebody else. So it is going to be interesting to see what happens. But
can you imagine, though, if they cut it up into a bunch of little pieces, all the Disney people that would buy parts of the ship and pay a lot of money for parts of the ship?
Did we get the view of Jimmy's background? Because I think having those Disney ears from the back of the cruise ship and behind him would be just about perfect. So, it's going to be very interesting. I agree. I think, as my joke always with Disney folks is, we all love change as long as we keep everything the same. And it's eventually going to change. They're not going to stay around forever. They get expensive to maintain as well. Those older ships are just much more expensive to maintain. So let's talk names for a second, because there are a bunch of ships that currently have no names. I did a fun thing, and I just went into ChatGPT and asked it, okay, what might one call a new Disney ship? And I'll give you some of the, one is, I think the Disney Imagination is an easy one. I wouldn't be surprised if you have like the Disney Figment. How cool would that be? Tying back to the parks. But here's some of the ones that ChatGPT came up with. Disney Enchantment, Disney Imagination, which I just said, Disney Illusion, Disney Marvel, Disney Fantasia. I think Federico, you mentioned having a Fantasia theme. Disney Quest, Disney Wondrous, Disney Discovery, and then they get into some silly ones like Disney Aurora or Disney Voyager, which maybe. But do you care about? Does the name matter to you? First off, and do you have any ideas as to what you would like it called, Chloe?
It matters in the way of, I'm going to be talking about it, and it lately has been going into the overall theme of the ship too. I really liked Federico's idea of the Disney Classic, because I'm all about the classic stories and jumping back into the nostalgic eras of the brand that we love. So I can definitely see. I'm surprised we don't have the Disney Imagine or Imagination yet. I thought that was
supposed to be there. That's the thing. It was supposed to be there. I am on record on many DCL fan shows calling the adventure the Disney Imagine, and I have, So it was supposed to be there. It was on documentation.
Yeah, I think it's coming. Elaine, you have any druthers about what you'd like this ship called?
Yeah, I think that one of the ones you came up with was Legacy, and I think that goes with Federico's idea for Classic. I think that Legacy would be a good name for that kind of a theme. I do think that we will see Imagine or Imagination at some point, because I think that's almost kind of like a given. And name. You asked Chloe if name even matters to her. For me, I feel like just because of my job, names matters, because I'm saying it so often on these shows. I have complained many times about Destiny, because I feel like I have to call it the Destiny, which sounds weird. And like I just said, I called it Destiny. It just makes me think of a person. And it's because it's the person's name. And it doesn't, I'm not even going to say what it makes me think of, but I think that the name does matter. And I think that the name has to fit into the way that we talk more smoothly. And maybe that's my own personal pet peeve, but I do think that it matters, but I do see that they are moving along the way that the name reflects the theming of the ship in an overall abundance. So where you don't necessarily see that in any other cruise line. So
Federico, I remember being on the Treasure. They were telling us that the theme of the Treasure was adventure, which doesn't make any sense, because I'm reading like, then the theme of the Avenger is Disney wishes, and then I don't know, it doesn't make sense. So I think they made up names after they decided everything else, and they're just, okay, so we already have that. No, it's okay, just let's leave it like that, and it's gonna be the Avenger. And I think it's just a matter of
be a cool one though. Disney Adventure.
Excuse me?
Disney Adventure would be cool though. Like a Marvel or Disney, they have a Disney Adventure.
No, I'm sorry. That was my Colombian accent. Adventure, like not the Avengers, but like the one in Singapore.
There you go.
Happens all the time. Exactly. So names I think matters more to me in the overall theme of the company. Like, it has to be something that we think of when we say Disney. Like saying Disney. I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to say it. But yeah,
I know there's this.
Disney
I know there's
Legacy
this
or
joke
Disney
out there where
Classic
it's
is the
kind of like
one.
the bingo. They throw a bunch of names of ball, magic, all those, and they just kind of churn them out, and it'll be whatever it is. I agree. It's going to be more tied to the theme.
Can I
Anything
just
else,
say
folks?
too?
Yeah, go.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit more. What Federico said about adventure on the treasure, I remember when we were watching the hour-long special presentation announcement, because I was in a whole chat thread with people and we were texting each other while we were all watching it. The whole time they're like, adventure, 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 adventure. And they said the name adventure probably 2,000 times. It's like, oh, the ship is going to be the adventure. And this is the treasure. And I think we all were very stunned that that was the name of that. The other thing I wanted to mention is I don't think that they will ever name a ship after a property. I don't think you're ever going to hear Marvel in terms of the Marvel universe. I don't think you're ever going to hear, like you said, Figment. I don't think you're ever going to have a ship named after a property, because I think there's too many legal things in there that it will always be named after an idea. So
yeah, one of those magic keywords that Disney loves.
right.
Magic, fantasy. It's basically the lyrics to any daytime parade at the parks.
Yeah.
I also
Or
think that
nighttime
trends,
fireworks festival or whatever. Nighttime spectacular.
Yeah.
I also think that trends are going to matter, because right now we're seeing a lot of this empowerment on Disney movies, like the stories we see. So the destiny and the treasure makes sense. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but maybe enchantment or Disney beauty or something more into that sort of romantic thing. If we start seeing those stories back, which I think we may, because everyone loves being, corny and cheesy, and Walt Disney was like that. If we start seeing that back on Disney in the future, we may see that coming back as well.
I like your Disney classic idea. That's my favorite, or Disney Legacy, or something like that. And having Steamboat Willie in there would be so awesome. With that, as we're going to bring this ship into shore, thank you all for being here. Before we do that, Elaine, how can folks get in touch with you?
Email is Elaine, ELAINE, at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com.
And Federico, how can people get in touch with you?
It's Federico at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. FEDERICO at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. And my English teacher must be very proud that I just did that.
Yeah.
There you go. It was, oops, look at my screen. Went all funky. I don't know why. Chloe, folks can follow you everywhere. Tell them where they can follow you.
Yeah. You can contact me at chloe@disneyinfo.com. Otherwise, I write articles for www.info.com. I'm a theme park correspondent for the DIS. Yeah.
Perfect. And I fixed my camera, so you can reach me, Chris Vorbeck, Chris V, at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. Thank you all for doing this. A great discussion, very fun. And remember, if you want to comment, share your thoughts about where you'd like to go, what you'd like to see on this ship. There's so much fun stuff going on. So we'll, of course, keep you informed both on DCL Fan and on the DCL Fan podcast. So with that, thank you so much for being here. Like, subscribe, all those kinds of things. And have a great day. Thank you for being here. We'll see you real soon. So long.